How's everyone doing? This is Low Ballers. I'm Steven, this is Tim. We're going to talk a little bit of sports, talk a little bit of whiskey. So let's start with the sports.
NFL this week. The lead story for a lot of people was Baker Mayfield and the Browns. The 8-3 Browns came in to play the 8-3 Titans, and the book on the Browns was sure they're 8-3, but they haven't beaten anybody good. They have one decent win against the Colts, and then they beat a bunch of scrubs. And every time they play somebody good, they get beat. So now you're playing a good team on the road. Now let's see what you got. And the Browns just came out and waxed the Titans. I know they only won by 6, but that game was not that close.
It wasn't that close. It was over in the first half.
Yeah. 38-7 at halftime. Yeah. It was bad. So.
That was a second half cover by me. I'll go ahead and take this Titans second half. But the Browns out-Titaned. Like, that running game is nasty.
Yeah. And the Browns, the old adage, beating them in every aspect of the game. They shut down Derrick Henry, made him fumble. They had a turnover on downs. Baker was just out there dealing. He was 20 for 25 and 4 touchdowns in the first half.
Accurate.
And one of those 5 incompletions was a stone-cold drop that should have been another touchdown. So they were just out there dealing against the Titans.
Myles Garrett came back, and you can definitely feel his presence.
He's an amazing. He gets a lot of credit rightfully for his pass rush. He's a great run-stopping defensive end.
Right.
And I didn't really know that about him until I really started paying attention to him more. He is a monster, and I would love to have him on any defensive line.
Yeah.
So,
but you got to be a bad team to get a player that good.
So where are you? I mean, a lot of people were down on Baker, and then now this kind of week happens, and some people are kind of giving him credit. Where are you on the Baker Mayfield spectrum?
I think he's good with the right offense. I give all the credit to the coach. I mean, the coach implements a great running game, a good play action. I mean, the receivers were running wide open. And he's putting it there. He's playing within his limitations, and I think that's a good thing. I think he's playing great right now. I still don't think he's going to win a playoff game.
So he threads the needle at times, but I think last year he thought he could thread the needle anytime, and this year I think he's picking his spots a little bit better. I give credit to the coaches, there's no doubt, but I think almost as much as getting the right coaches has helped him, I think getting rid of the wrong coaches. Freddie Kitchens was a nightmare of a coach and didn't do almost anything right. Hugh Jackson was a horrible coach. I mean, the Hugh Jackson day of January 31st, 1-31. And then, Greg Williams actually did an okay job as the Browns' interim head coach, but that's the same guy that just got fired as the Jets' defensive coordinator. So.
How do you go all out blitz?
So, now Baker gets grown-ups coaching a football team, and I think you're right. I think that's made a huge difference for him. And not just in the scheme, but, coaching really, really matters. You get your game plan together. By Wednesday, you should have a good idea of what we're going to try to do against the team we're playing. How are we going to attack this? What are some things we're going to lean on if they do this? What if they do? You should have those things in place. And I really felt at times last year the Browns were just winging it,
They were lost.
We have Odell Beckham, so we can just throw it to him.
So do you think they're better with or without Odell Beckham? Are you one of those people?
I wouldn't say that they're necessarily better. They've obviously been better this year, but I think that's a lot of it is the team has just gotten better as there's been more games. You have to remember, this team did not have an offseason with an all-new coaching staff. So it's easy to say, yeah, they've played better since Beckham's been gone. But I think, objectively speaking, you would expect them to continue to play better the more games they get in with a new coaching staff.
I mean, they're stacked as talent-wise. Talent-wise, they're stacked. But
you have Nick Chubb, who's one of the top 5 running backs in the league. You have Kareem Hunt, who would be a top 10 running back.
I mean, he was a top 5 running back before he was a top 5 picker.
Jarvis Landry, I wouldn't go as far as say he's a top 10 receiver, but he's a very, very good receiver, and they have a very, very good tight end. The receivers and tight ends are good enough to win for sure, and that the investment,
the line's good.
The investment of going out to get Conklin on the offensive line, that has paid dividends for them. That was a very good move for them in the offseason, I thought. Anytime you have a young quarterback, I really think the key is getting a great offensive line in front of him for 2 reasons. Number 1, it protects him, but number 2, you can run the ball, which only protects him more. So
it gets people out of the back for you.
So
especially I know, as a Bears fan, we have no offensive line.
And so when Baker plays like he played Sunday, you can't put 8 in the box to stop Nick Chubb, and if you can't do that, then you have a choice to make. I mean, what are you going to do? It becomes one of those offenses where it's we can take this away, but they might get us this way, or we can take that away and they might get us this other way.
They out Titans the Titans. I mean, that's really what they did. They outran them, and then it opened up everything in the back for Bake, and he made them pay. Like he was dropping dimes.
I have them as the 4th best team in the AFC right now, and I'm not basing that off record. I just legitimately think there's only about 3 teams that I would pick consistently to beat them.
You got Kansas City.
First, Kansas City against everybody.
Pittsburgh,
and then Buffalo.
You're high on Buffalo. See, I'm not. I'm not that high on Buffalo.
So, the Ravens would be, a 50-50 shot against the Browns, I think. The Titans and Raiders, 50-50, I know that didn't look like that this week. The Colts are another. I mean, there are a lot of good teams. Once you get past the top end, the AFC bunches up quite a bit. There's a bunch of good teams, and not a lot of great teams.
There's one great team.
Yeah.
One team that could be great, and then the AFC.
So speaking of the Steelers, I mean, they obviously lost their perfect season to the Washington football team. How much... They've had a couple close calls. They didn't play all that well against the Bengals. The Titans probably should have beaten them.
They didn't play against the reserve Ravens either that well.
And how much confidence do you have in the Steelers going forward? Are they as good as they have appeared to be?
They're going to have the quarterback with the most playoff experience going into the playoffs. So I mean, and you got Coach Tomlin. I mean, he's won a Super Bowl. I still like their team. They got a good defense. I don't know if I trust the receivers. I like Juju, but. And Claypool's coming up out of nowhere, but I don't know if I trust them in the playoffs.
We'll see. I agree with you, and they've had an injury or two here and there that's not helped them at all. So they really need to get as healthy as possible and try to put their team back to some level close to where it was.
I kind of feel like this week was kind of a fluke for them just because of the whole COVID and getting pushed back, and it's just going to make it an odd week for them.
And COVID has done that. It's made it hard to judge teams week to week. Like who's been practicing, who hasn't. It's who has availability, who's going to lose. The Des Bryant getting taken out of the game.
Oh man, getting taken out of the revenge game.
You're padded up and they take you out. I mean that just shows you how difficult betting the NFL can be this year.
I have a feeling he was going to take a bow on the start. I have a feeling. There was no way he wasn't going to.
So elsewhere in the NFL, the Eagles have decided to make a change at quarterback. And this being close to Christmas time, you have all heard of Elf on the Shelf, but have you heard of Wentz on the bench? That's where he's going. So he'll be on the bench. That's my corny Christmas joke for the week, by the way.
It was good.
Good. I liked it. So a lot of you might not know this. Jalen Hurts making a start as a rookie in the NFL. He'll be the first Oklahoma quarterback to do that since Kyler Murray in 2019.
I was going to say Baker Mayfield.
So, for those of you guys that are paying attention, Oklahoma's had some success putting some quarterbacks in the NFL.
QBU.
So,
you're not going to give him the Bama credit? Hey, that's the first Bama quarterback in a little while since Tua.
Alabama has had some, yeah. And it just goes to show you that, Nick Saban was put in a spot there. He had senior Jalen Hurts or his freshman Tua. A lot of talent floating around Alabama at every position pretty much recently.
They got some really good bagmen there.
So, we'll give a toast to Jalen.
Hey, go Jalen.
Good luck in your first start.
He's not going to get that W. Not against the Saints.
The Saints, I feel like Sean Payton could run us out there and start at starting positions and somehow find a way to coach us up to win the game. So.
Let me get paid. I can drop a little 5-yard dunks.
Okay, so elsewhere, in a little bit of other sporting news, going to the college side, it was ruled today that the Big Ten is going to modify their agreed-upon rules that they agreed to before the season, that they had a minimum number of games you had to have to get into the Big Ten championship, and now a team with less than that amount, Ohio State, will be allowed to play. Stephen, what do you make of this?
I mean, they had to do it. You got to bring that money in. They didn't have another team that was gonna make it. I mean, Penn State's trash. Nebraska's trash. Michigan's trash.
In the words of Wu-Tang Clan, cream get the money, dollar bill, y'all. So, I'm the greatest rapper in Norman, so a lot of people don't know that about me. So
Download him.
I spit hot fire. Okay, the greatest rapper of all time.
We call it Nompton.
So Ohio State will be playing in the Big Ten championship. So it wasn't just
Northwestern.
It wasn't just a ruling of we'll see what happens if they qualify. No, as soon as that ruling was made, Ohio State was in. So yeah, they'll be playing against Northwestern, who has the disadvantage of they make their players actually study. So, they're one of those colleges, like the Vanderbilts of the world,
right?
So
the Harvards.
You can't win and make your students study. So before we go to Vegas to make our betting picks, we'll just talk about. I'm not going to do a great analysis on this one. This is Buffalo Trace whiskey, is what we're drinking right now. This is a very, very good whiskey. This is a whiskey you can pick up for $30 ish, and it's in Oklahoma right now. And you go to a liquor store and ask for this, it's 50. It's not great odds they're going to have it. I know my liquor store here in Norman, they get their shipments on Friday, so I show up Friday at 1 p.m. if I want Buffalo Trace to make sure if they have it that I'm one of the first people to get it. So before we go to Vegas to talk about this week's picks, we'll talk about our prior week's picks, which, as a lot of football season, was impacted by COVID. I picked the Ravens plus some points. I think they actually ended up covering it, but it wasn't until 14 days later, so I'm not going to count that. I picked under in the OU game, which ended up not being played. So I went 2-1, but I feel like just on that alone, that I only had 3 games played, I don't qualify. So I'm not Ohio State, so nobody's going to modify the rules for me. So just based on that alone, I'm going to give the cash money necklace to you this week.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I played on my game.
So I'll get that back pretty quick. Well, you'll see. It's going to be great. So we'll start off with the locker and the shocker. Who's your locker of the week?
My locker of the week. I'm gonna take the Dolphins against KC. I'm gonna take the Dolphins +7 against Kansas City at home. And I always like when they gotta go to Miami. I feel like teams party too much, and Patrick Mahomes is about to hit the clubs, even with COVID. They don't play in Florida. It's still open.
I'm gonna go to Miami too. Like, what are we waiting for? My locker of the week. I'm gonna take the Ravens on Monday Night Football over the Browns. I'm just nervous when you watch the Browns. They had that great game, and it's not as if I like the Browns. I think if you listened earlier in the video, I've talked very well about the Browns. I continue to do so. But when you have that great of a game and you're a team that doesn't usually have seasons like this, I wonder if they're going to start feeling themselves a little bit. The Ravens, on the other hand, are a desperate team. Yes, they won on Monday. They cannot lose games. They need this win. And I think they need it worse than the Browns do, and I think that leads to a Ravens victory this week. So I hope I'm wrong, because the Browns are a great story, and they're very fun to watch. And if you're an OU fan, you always want to see Baker Mayfield win, but I just think it's a bad spot.
Yeah.
Sometimes one team needs a win more than the other team. So now that we've got our locker, let's go with our shockers. Who's your shocker of the week?
Shocker of the week. It's actually going to be tonight. I am taking New England straight up against the Rams. I really feel like they win it straight out.
By the time you watch this video, you will know if that was a winner or not. I am going to go. My shocker, admittedly, is not much of a shocker. The only requirement of a shocker is that it has to be an underdog. I am going to take the Raiders over the Colts. The Raiders are at home. They're +3. To make it a little bit more of a shocker, I'll only count this as a win if the Raiders win the game. How about that?
Yeah, you gotta take the money around it.
The Raiders are home. They're a very good team. They've had a bad couple weeks. They almost lost to the Jets. I really think that the Raiders, much like the Ravens, they're a desperate team. They're a good team that's desperate, and they're at home. I think they're going to come out and win this game. I like the Colts better, but I just like this spot for the Raiders being at home and being desperate. So now we got our lockers and shockers out of the way. Who are just 3 other picks that you like this week?
I'm going to go with Atlanta -2.5. I think they cover that. If they're favored, there's a reason for it. Also, I like Wyoming +11.5. It's a lot of points, but I'm gonna take the points. I think they're better than what people give them credit for. And on that opposite side of that, I'm gonna give up 13 with Georgia. I think Georgia covers easy.
Terrible picks all around.
Hey,
I hate every single one of them. I am going to make some of the most boring picks for the non-locker and shocker picks. I'm going to go under the total 3 times. So the first two are Big Ten football, which lends itself very well to picking unders. So I'm going to take Northwestern under the total of 45, Iowa under the total of 44, and every year I find a team, I think, that I just pick them. The first year I started doing this was when Boise State started getting good. They were always a late game, and it was just a lock. You could take Boise State because they didn't just want to win; they wanted to win by 40. So it was like
blue turf, man.
So you just had to keep taking Boise. And this year, my lock has been the Oklahoma Sooners under the total. It has been unbelievably kind to me. This week at West Virginia, the total is 56.5, and I don't think that game goes anywhere near that total. I should have made this my lock of the week, but I hate to take a total for a lock.
Hey,
I'd like to pick a side for the locker and the shocker.
It happens to the worst of us, man. It happens to the worst of us.
I would be surprised. I honestly think that Oklahoma is going to score somewhere around 27-31, and West Virginia is going to score 14 less. So it's going to be very, very low scoring in my opinion.
That OU defense looked good.
So we'll be back next week to see how much money I won and how much of that was Steven's money, and we will see you then.
Hey, I still got the chain. It's temporary.
Temporary.
Cheers.